Welcome to the report from Tiger Mountain. Ladies and gentlemen, it could be goodbye Daniel Andrews. That's going to be the topic of tonight's report. Stick around. Goodbye, Dad. Well, ladies and gentlemen, all this week there's been rumours floating around the top of Spring Street that Daniel Andrews could be on the ouster. So I'm going to actually conduct this report as if he has been given the arse, ladies and gentlemen. So let's discuss it. Is Daniel Andrews gone? Well, obviously, I think to everybody in the freedom movement will be relieved because there hasn't been a state premier in Australia who has been more a stickler for the COVID rules, who's a bigger pain in the arse, and who has kind of been an enemy of the new right. But, I don't know. You got to admit it, I'm going to miss him. I think it's important to have somebody you dislike in life. And I think everybody in Victoria has been blessed the last 10 years with Daniel Andrews as our premier because we've had someone to hate. You know what I mean? The Herald Sun's going to go broke. It's going to be like when Trump left office in the United States, all the newspapers circulation's going to go through the floor. The Herald Sun's not going to sell 10 copies without Daniel Andrews around. To some extent, Daniel Andrews was a really interesting hate figure, and in a sense, sometimes you miss that. This woman who's going to replace him, she seems pretty boring. Obviously she's not going to have the close connections to the Chinese Communist Party that Dan had, which is obviously going to be a good thing, but it's kind of going to be a bit dull. I have to admit, I'm going to miss him a little bit. And did everything Daniel Andrews do, was that every single thing he did was terrible? Maybe not. He was a bit of a builder. Obviously we all know he spent far too much on building, and Victoria's going to be in debt for the next 2,000 years, paying for all the building he's done in the last 10 years. But he was a builder, like a Roman emperor, and to some extent that's impressive. There is a kind of, near where I live, they're building this tunnel that goes, I don't know what the name of it,
Northeast Link.
The Northeast Link, there you go. They're building a Northeast Link, and it's basically they've been working on it for about the last 10 years in my area. It looks like they're building a new Tullamarine out there. It's like about 100 cranes and about 5,000 people are working on this project, it seems, maybe less, but that's what it looks like, ladies and gentlemen. And they're building, I think, about a 2 or 3 kilometre tunnel over to Bulleen. And it's extraordinary. As far as I can tell, the actual tunnel itself hasn't begun to be built yet, but they've built everything, all the preparation, all the levelling of the ground. They've put in special infrastructure, special electricity. They're building these giant vats. God knows what they're putting in it. They can be doing anything. But obviously whatever they need to build this tunnel is what they're building. So, it's interesting, and Daniel Andrews was behind that. Obviously once it's built, it probably will be convenient for the area because you'll be able to just scoot on over to Bulleen from here under a tunnel, take 2 minutes. But I don't know. So there's something about Dan Andrews. I saw this post on his page recently where he was growing marijuana, obviously for some medical marijuana thing, but it made me think that's definitely his best post. So, obviously we didn't like Daniel Andrews, but, there was something about him that, did gain your attention, both as a hate figure, somebody you could hate, and look, you got to admit, from the perspective of woke, from the perspective of, I guess the direction the Labor Party has been moving in, he was a pretty good leader for that kind of politics. Obviously, that's not my kind of politics, or the politics of the people here on the Report from Tiger Mountain. But if you do like that kind of politics, Daniel Andrews was a pretty decent leader for that kind of thing. You know what I mean? He's going to leave the state of Victoria in debt for the next 2,000 years. Obviously, that's a slight exaggeration, but, for a long time. And obviously, we've had other resigning people of late. Brett Sutton, who was sort of, the Mr. Number two during the pandemic, to Dan Andrews, so he's resigned, and obviously Mark McGowan has resigned over in Western Australia under a bit of a cloud, but we'll talk about that on another report perhaps. And there we are. We could be saying goodbye to Dictator Dan. Obviously most of us here in the freedom movement, we're glad, good riddance, but it's with a slight pang in our hearts that we say goodbye to Dan, because he was a hate figure that we all sort of enjoyed hating on, and also because, like any major figure, life is always a little different when they're not around. That's the report from Tiger Mountain for this week.